All right, everyone. Hi, my name is Amy O'Malley. I am with Pro Design, the company that brings you your inspired shades. And today I am very excited to introduce to you our new dual sheer shade collection. So dual sheer shades, often referred to as banded shades or zebra shades, we are calling them dual sheer shades. And we launched them this year at convention, or we introduced them this year at convention. Unfortunately, no sooner did we come home than life had some change of plans for all of us, and we did not do a full bore launch. We have just recently done a soft launch and started to send books out to people who ordered them at convention. We did send out an email asking if you ordered a book at convention and you would like for us to ship it now, or would you like for us to hold it until maybe work picks up a little bit more, or just cancel your order. Anyone who's received their book or received a confirmation from us, thank you for sending in your email. We're waiting on quite a few responses. So if you know you ordered a book and just haven't received it yet, that's probably why. And if you are one of those people and you're on this today, by all means, just chat me or email me or call me, text me. Let me know what you would like us to do about your sample book. So as we go through this, I am going to first go over just the collection, what sets it apart, what makes it a little different. So for those of you who've tuned in, and are just interested in learning about what makes inspired shades a little different, I will go over that part first. And then for those of you who are new to this entire product category and want to learn a little bit more about it, we'll go over things like specs and sales considerations and installation tips as we go through this. Should be no more than 20 minutes if I do my job correctly. So this is our new dual sheer shade collection. Behind me is your sample book here. I want to thank everyone for all of the advice they gave us about introducing with a side opening book that stands up well in your van. Our previous sample books opened from the bottom and I guess tended to fall over. As you requested, we also made all of our handles longer so that you can loop them over your arm and carry them that way. So in your Inspired Shades Dual Sheer Shade collection, we were asked to create some things that were a little bit different. The challenge was to give you offerings or give you options that were a little different than the other collections that you already have, or other options that you have to sell this product. So as we went through and we developed this collection, we kept a lot of the things in mind that we had heard you say about why, what you wanted that was different. So in this book, you have 107 fabrics. There are 77 light filtering fabrics. They are obviously noted with the light or white card. They snap out of the book so that you can hold them in the window. And you also have 30 room darkening options, which we were very excited to bring to you. We did hear you that was something that you needed, was more room darkening options. So as you go through this book, on the right-hand side, there are 30 room darkening cards here with varying band sizes from 3 inches to 5.5 inches as you go throughout the book. Additionally, in the fabrics, obviously we have colors from bright white to gray to black to some warm tones, everything in between. We also have fabrics that have a lot of different finishes. So we've got some that have a lot of sheen to it. We've got some that are metallic. We've got some that just have some color variation. And then we've actually got some too that have some textural variation. Like this one's got some pleats in it. So they have different, obviously different bands. And also in the shears, you can see that there are different shears going throughout. I was asked yesterday if those shears had anything to do with the price groups, and no, they don't. You'll find variations in all the price groups as you go through. So the other thing that we did that was a little different is we brought you the vast majority of the fabrics at 110 inches wide. So really great width that can fill nice big spaces. Just a few fabrics only go to 94 inches. The majority of them go to 110 inches. All of that is visible here on your sample card. So you can see here we have the fabric name, product code, maximum width, whether or not light filtering or room darkening, then the recommended component color there. Then over here you've got your price group and you've got your position in the book. So in this case, this is L3 or left stack third card. That's where that goes. So again, all your swatches come out. They can be held in the window, and all of your swatches feature a full repeat of the sheer and the band. So you'll be able to show your customer the full size of that on every single card. So that was kind of exciting. Additionally, just like our other collections, we worked very hard to make your specs and your pricing easy. Our product guide, which is right here, is very short. All the information that you need is in here, and it is 15 pages long. So at the beginning of your product guide is just the fabric, material reference pages that kind of tell you price group, maximum width, all the same stuff that's on your card. As you get through here, there are your top treatment options, lift options, and then the last couple of pages are this is your specs right here. This is all your specs. And then the last couple of pages are your pricing. So very simple to price in the home. Nothing additional to add after you've built your pricing in there. Just like our other collections, we do not charge for shipping. We do not charge for oversize. We ship air express. So as fast as it can possibly get here, it gets here at no additional charge to you. So the sample books, if you are not familiar with them, the sample book is $175 US or $235 Canadian, and it's rebated after 5 orders. We have them in Ohio. We have them ready to ship. So all we need to hear from you is go ahead and ship it. Or if you did not order a book at convention, but now are interested in doing so, we can either chat after this, or you can send me a message or email me or call into our office, any carrier pigeon, Morse code, it all works. So like I said, this was introduced at convention, soft launch shortly afterwards. We are fully up and producing. Some people got these books very early and they have already sold some. So traditionally about 5 to 6 day turnaround, probably realistically could go as high as 10 during holidays or things like that. But right now we're at 4-day turnaround and an additional 4 to 5 days for shipping. So I took some notes here so I don't forget anything. This is only my second training, so please bear with me. Hopefully I won't forget anything, but if I did forget anything, by all means ask me down in the chat box there. So as I mentioned, your bands and the shears in here have varying sizes, everywhere from 3 inches to 5.5 inches. In all cases, the bands are actually larger than the shears. And oh, I'm sorry. I should shut that microphone off. The bands are larger than the shears, and the reason for that is when they overlap or when they're in operation, you would want the bands to overlap each other just a bit to try to prevent some of that light that can come up and around them. For those of you who've never seen these in operation, I guess I should probably show you exactly what they are. These are obviously very bold styling, very strong horizontal lines, very clean and contemporary and modern. The cool thing about these, as opposed to, or that is different than roller shades, they take up as much space in the window as roller shades. They can completely go up into the cassette, but these give you just a little bit more flexibility. So what you can do is offset the bands so that they're fully closed. Like over here in my motorized shade, they're offset. There's 2 panels, front and back, and they are covering each other now. In this case, I've opened them so that I can see through a little bit. I can let some light in, and I can control my privacy to some degree. Or if I just want all the light or all the view, I can fully lift this up and out of the window, and I won't operate the motor because it'll get my dog barking, and none of us want that. So operations-wise, it's a super cool product. I do realize that in some cases this has been a little bit cost prohibitive for some customers. Maybe someone who likes the look of this or a roller shade but finds the normal price of this to be a little bit prohibitive. I do want to say that the pricing on our collection is extremely aggressive. And I think that as you look through the fabrics and compare the fabrics to the price guide and see what you can get in a price group A or B, pretty fantastic stuff at really reasonable prices. So as we talked about with our ease and simplicity, our cassette prices are built into the shade price. You don't have to go, price your shade, then price a cassette, then price a lift option. The cassette is already built in. So the next thing I'd like to go over with you is some of the components and some of the things that we do to make this easy for you, and some of the options that you have in the selling consultation. As you can see behind me, we have 2 cassette sizes, or 2 cassette options. We have a rounded cassette here, which is rounded in the front, comes standard with a fabric insert. The fabric insert is always a full band. There's no shear showing in your cassette insert. And you have the option of doing it to match your shade, or you can do it with an alternating fabric, and perhaps you're making some kind of a style choice. And there's no charge for any of that stuff. So there's a place in Touchpoint and Pick for you to make that selection, what you want in your cassette there. On the square cassette over here, both of these are 3-inch options, so they're 3-inch cassettes, and we don't have a large cassette option on this. The square cassette is a powder-coated painted aluminum, comes in 5 colors, just like the rounded cassette, just like the wand, just like the nylon cord loops, white, beige, gray, black, and bronze. So all coordinating. Of course, you have the option of doing like a different color chain cord loop than cassette if you're perhaps trying to match window trim or something, but that's an aside. The square cassette itself is powder coated aluminum. It cannot be fabric wrapped. So your 2 options are the rounded cassette with the fabric insert, or the square cassette with no fabric wrap but painted powder coated aluminum. So those are the 2 top treatment options, again, built into your pricing. We have 3 lift mechanisms available to you. We have the continuous cord loop that I just mentioned. That is standard and that is no charge. At the no charge option is a nylon cord loop. The cord loops are fixed lengths. We have several options. If you don't choose a custom length or a particular length option, then we make it to 3/4 the length of the shade. So whatever is closest to 3/4 the length of the shade is what we will put on it for you. The other option here is our wand motor. So this is a great cordless alternative, great entry-level automation option. You can have motorization at the touch of a button. You just walk over. In this case, I have my lower limit set with the shade all the way down and the bands closed. I set my favorites at the shade down with the bands opened. And then of course you can go all the way up and out of the window. And that would be, for me, my upper limit. Of course, those are adjustable and easily done at the wand, so no fancy motorization there. The other option that we have is our remote control motorization. And I do want to briefly talk about that. We have our standard remote control motor, which is a lithium rechargeable motor. It gets about 300 up-down cycles per charge, and we only have 1 motor. It can lift big, heavy shades, so nothing really required there in terms of switching motors or anything like that. We have a single channel and a multi-channel remote. So it's right here, a little different than our roller shade remote, and the 2 are not interchangeable, unfortunately. Like our roller shade remote, this is our 15 channel right here. You have your upper limit, lower limit, favorites position. This is how you go back and forth between channels. But then over here you have a tilt function. So this allows you to just kind of micro operate the shade. Just maybe you wanted to just a little light in, or have just a little bit of view through, but you don't want to give up too much privacy, but you don't want it completely dark. That's what that tilt function over here can do. And you can certainly program groups of shades, individual shades, however you want to do that, and everything operates together on channel 0. Also, we have our home automation, our hub called the Connector, and the Connector hub works with Google Home and Alexa, Android phones, iPhones, and iPads. So it is home automation. It is compatible with the basics. However, that brings me to your smart home collection, and we fully intend and are excited about bringing on your smart home collection with this product. At this moment, we don't have smart home motors in this factory, so we, of course, can ship you shades that are motor ready. So if you would like to have a smart home motor in these shades here and need the smart home automation, perhaps the smart home hub, or you're selling mixed vendors, whatever your reason, we are more than happy to send motor ready shades for you, and you can get your smart home motors and accessories the way you normally would. So just know that that's an option for you until we can get it in the product ourselves and ship it to you fully ready. So that is a little bit about the actual components, the specs, that kind of stuff. I do now want to go over fabrication. Fabrication of these shades is a little different than roller shades in that it is still tube based, and the tube is still in a cassette, just like a roller shade, but these are actually 2 panels. And so the 2 panels operate independently. However, it's one big loop, and it's brought down through this weighted hem bar right here. And as the shade comes down and goes back up and around this tube, the tube is the driving force. It will pull the shade or push the shade fabric down. As it's rolling it back up, this tube is sliding along the fabric, weighting it down, keeping it down for you. And then that back panel, the one that's behind it, is fixed. And it's fixed for a reason. It doesn't move front to back or down or up or anything like that, but it does move side to side, and we'll go into that in just a little bit, why that's important to you. So that's how these shades are fabricated. One of the things that we've done differently is that our front and back panels are very close together. I'd say not even half an inch separation. So in our case, our front panel, this one right here, is on the back of the roller. I do know in some other fabrications it's on the front of the roller, and so the side view actually has a little bit like this, the back fabric and the front fabric is more of a V. Ours are more like this. So that's good for you in that it, first of all, keeps everything close to the glass, but secondly, it does a little bit help to eliminate that light leak that will come up behind the bands. And as we get into some of the sales considerations, we'll talk about why that's important. So that's the actual fabrication of them. They're really kind of a simple product, but a little bit finicky. So the next thing I want to talk about is the installation, or the things that you want to be mindful of in the sales consultation. The first thing is these are cassette based and therefore have to have cassette brackets. Cassette brackets can only be top or back mounted. So if you have a side mount application, this can't work unless you're willing to do some kind of MacGyvering that I probably don't want to know about. So if you have a top mount or a back mount surface, you're fine. And like I said, these are cassette based, so that cassette bracket will snap back, push up, and then stay sturdy in the window for you. They are a little bit finicky in that people who talk about these fabrics often talk about a waviness that you see throughout them. That waviness is really not the fabric. The fabric itself is not wavy. It's actually the fabrication or perhaps the installation. And so as we talk through this, I'm going to tell you a few things to watch out for when you're installing to combat that. So in the sales consultation, you want to first look for a place that you can mount those brackets, back mount or top mount. You also want to look that you have a level surface. I mean, I know there's no such thing as a real level window, but if you've got one of those kind of Dr. Seuss windows, where everything's crooked, this might not be the best product for you. Like a roller shade, it is a perfect rectangle or a perfect square, and fitting into an imperfect space is often makes that imperfect space look much worse than something that might be a little bit softer treatment, or something that might be a little bit more flexible than the hard rectangular shape of a dual shear or a roller shade. So again, the other thing you want to look for is a level surface that you can get these brackets in and get them level. So the other thing that I do want to caution you about, like a roller shade, the fabric width and the overall width of the shade are not the same. So you have a deduction on this side where your control mechanism is. So in this case, our deductions, along with our keep it simple thing, is always 5/8 of an inch on the control side. And on the idle end, the pin that just spins around in the side bracket on this side is always 3/8 of an inch. So in our case, your shade fabric is always 1 inch less than your overall width. If you order a 31-inch shade, you'll get 31 inches from end cap to end cap, outside of end cap to outside of end cap. Your fabric will be 30 inches. So for anyone who is especially sensitive to light gaps, which are often a discussion that you have to have with a roller shade or a dual shear shade, if they're sensitive to light gaps or anything like that, you want to make sure they know that in an inside mount application, that's going to be a thing. They absolutely don't want light gaps, then you need to look at an outside mount consideration, because there's no getting around that. The other thing we talked briefly about was the light leak that comes up behind these. We are very careful not to use the word blackout for the room darkening fabrics on this. The reason being, even though light cannot penetrate the fabric, light will come up the back of the shade and come around those bands. And especially on an inside mount, will also come around the sides of the shade. So you're going to have halo effect around those bands. In the room darkening fabrics, we actually have a larger discrepancy between the band and the shade, or the shear. The bands are even bigger. You know, they're 1 inch difference on the light filter, and they're 1.5 inch difference on the room darkening. So you have even more overlap. But at the end of the day, light is going to find a way. So I just want to kind of put that out there, that if you've got a customer who maybe needs to sleep during the day, or is just very sensitive to that, you know, please have that conversation, or at least consider it. The other thing I want to talk about is traffic areas in the home. These are very delicate and very sheer fabrics. They are beautiful, and they're, I mean, obviously they're lovely, but they're not going to stand up to high traffic areas like a kitchen door, or someplace that's just constantly getting rubbed against and bumped against. And I'm really sorry for my dog. This time it's the motor, it's the neighbor. So in a high traffic area, if you can't protect the edges with perhaps drapery panels or something like that, again, you might want to consider that this product, especially the edges, can be quite delicate and may not ultimately stand up over the long term to a lot of high traffic and a lot of abuse. So that is, as far as the considerations in the sales consultation, those are the 3 things to me that really stand out. I spent a lot of time over the past week or so completely deconstructing all these shades and putting them back together so that I could really understand them. And it led me to a lot of information about installation of these. And installation is so important, probably to me more important on these than it is on even roller shades, which are a little finicky sometimes. The reason that I say that is that we talked about that waviness. The other thing, like roller shades, is these can telescope. So start to kind of veer off to the side a little bit. If the tube is not completely level all the time and it's rolling up, if you've got it a little bit like this, the shade itself is going to start to shift down, rub on the components, and you'll start to see fraying on the edges. So it all starts at the brackets. And the thing that I would say is take the time, take the energy to make sure that your brackets are level before you install the shade, whether it be little shims, like I've heard guitar picks, I've heard washers, I've heard business cards, I've heard all kinds of crazy things. Whatever it takes to get those brackets level first, do that. About 2 brackets are needed for up to about 54 inches, but it's very, very important that your bracket placement be equal. And by that, I mean, in this case, your first 2 brackets need to be on the far outsides of your cassette. As you get wider, when you get to about 54 inches, you want to consider a 3rd bracket at that point. And that 3rd bracket should be right in the middle. So the reason for that is that it holds your cassette level, holds that tube up level. It keeps that tube and that cassette from sagging in the center, and therefore causing the fabric to sag, which will then give you that wavy appearance. So I would say after 54 inches, every 24 inches or so, you want to start considering another bracket. So at 78, you'd be at 4 brackets. And if you had 4 brackets, you would want them to be evenly spaced in fourths across the shade. And what I did to find out how important that is just install one on the edge and one in the middle and install it. And even on this little shade, I could start to see the waviness that was going to be much more apparent in a wider shade. So that was really important. I also installed them on level, and it was a bear to get that cassette in, but once I forced it in, the fabric was wavy. Sorry. The other thing that I mentioned to you is that spline in the back. And here's what I want. I want to show it to you and then explain to you why that is so important for you. On this side of the shade over here, my little stove here, it is more easier for me to pull this out. So I don't know if you can see this. I have just offset this back panel by 3/4 of an inch at least. And I can push this back panel back and forth to adjust it. What happens when I get them offset like this, and I know you can't see it on the camera, but I can already see it in the shears and in the bands, they're starting to wave. So as you can imagine, as you get out to 90 inches or 110 inches, that wave is going to be really apparent because it's going to go all the way across the shade. If you should install and find that you're just a little not level and you're seeing this wave just a little bit, roll the shade all the way down and then make sure using your fingers you gently push that spline left or right in the groove in the top up here. and that will allow you, I have now corrected it. I know you can't see it, but there's nothing there. There's no wave there at all. So that's why that spline is important in the fabrication. Often when you do see that waviness in this product and that spline is not movable, that's the cause. The back panel and the front panel are not even. Obviously, if you look along the edges, it's kind of visible to you, but if it doesn't become readily apparent, then, and you see waviness, you know your brackets are level, that might be your culprit right there. The third thing that can cause, that waviness in the fabric is static. And because these are so thin and so sheer and so fine, the fabric does tend to pick up static. Now, it's treated with static guard at the factory. However, it was very easy for me to create static on these in my home. And granted, we still have our furnace on here in Ohio and the houses are really dry, but it didn't take much for me. I just rubbed the plastic bag that the shade came in on it, and I was able to create static, and the static actually clung the two panels together and created a wavy appearance. So if you're seeing that, your brackets are level, that these front and back panels are lined up, that might be your culprit right there. And I did rub some bounce sheets over at first, and it worked okay, but not great. I know that you could probably spray hairspray on it if that's all you have, but that would probably trap dust on it. So I would recommend, if you put together an installation kit for this product, in addition to several different kinds of shims and that kind of stuff, is just throw a little trial size thing of static guard in there and pick it up at Walgreens or whatever. But as soon as I sprayed it on the shade, it was just gone and it's not come back. So, and it's been a couple weeks now. So I don't think it's going to come back. So just wanted to kind of maybe pass that tip on, to throw some static guard in your truck or your van, and you'll be fine. I did just bring up care and cleaning though when I mentioned hairspray and dust. So again, these are delicate fabrics. They will not stand up to harsh detergents. They'll do great with the dust brush on your vacuum. You can vacuum them down, or if you do need to spot clean, please just use a very mild soap, maybe Dawn or a baby shampoo or something like that, and just spot clean. These are not meant to be scrubbed down in any way. So just something to keep in back of your mind there, or to perhaps, pass on to your customer. Thank everybody so much for coming and sitting through all this with me. I will stay on as long as you all want to. If you want to live chat, ask particular questions about this or any other product category, or just visit for a while, all of that is fine with me. So I am just, briefly bear with me while I turn this off. And again, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for tuning into this and for your interest in the product, and hope that we will be hearing from you soon with lots of orders.